I'm all right, thank you. How are you?
I'm
Thank
good.
you for having me.
You're the most difficult person in the world to book. I say, get me Esther, get me Esther. They're like, oh, she can't do it till next January. She's a very busy woman.
I know, sorry.
Happy New Year to you, Esther.
Happy New Year. Did you
Um,
have a good Christmas?
no, no, it was crap, if I'm
Okay.
honest. No, lots of people in my family got COVID. It was crap. I'm not going to lie. Why would I
Oh,
say,
yeah,
oh, it
so
was
many people
brilliant?
in London got COVID. Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
sorry to hear that.
No, it's all right. And then New Year, my daughter, it was her 18th birthday, so got turfed out in my own house, drank too much red wine and was asleep by 10:30 and woke up the next morning in a skip. No, I'm joking, but I did actually not even see the New Year in. Um, Esther, so much to talk to you about. We'll start with Prime Minister's question time today. Shocking news that Sir Keir Starmer has today got COVID for the 1103rd time in the last 2 years, and is not there on the day after he relaunched the Labour Party, which is quite interesting. Angela Raynor, she did rather well against Boris Johnson. There was a bit of an atmosphere there for once, wasn't there?
I was quite surprised, and I think she was very composed, which is not really the first thing that comes to mind when I think of Angela Raynor. I do think that her side of the house didn't really ask the kind of relevant questions I was hoping they would ask for. I
Yeah.
mean, I can't remember which MP it was, but he said we should compensate parents for each day that their children miss schools. I think it was £30 a day. And I just think, how disconnected are you from reality? Where do you think the country has £30 a day to be giving to parents who really should be feeding their own children? I mean, it was, yeah, so that was one of the more ludicrous suggestions, but I do think that she did quite well. She did handle herself quite well, and it gives me a little bit of hope for the Labour Party, which is not something I ever thought I'd say on the side of.
It's rather interesting if you look at it. If you look at it as a dynamic, she and Keir Starmer are so diametrically opposed. Whenever they
Yeah.
sit next to each other, it looks like the worst relationship ever. It looks like after a divorce and the worst financial separation, they've got to sit at their eldest son or daughter's wedding and try not to tell everybody in the audience that they hate each other's guts. She patently wants his job. He patently is. Did you hear my reading that I read? In that you'll love this. I saved this for you as well. This was in the Mail this morning. I think this is. I've read this 3 times on the show because I think it's fantastic. It seems that however many additives and artificial flavourings the Labour leader's spads pump him with, he's about as flavoursome as a 2-week-old cup of soup. I mean that.
You know what's really weird? I actually had a family member say that as well. He has no flavor, just like a week ago. I think we always know that leaders and deputy leaders of political parties in this country want each other's jobs, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, not the other way around, but we always know deputy leaders want the leader's job. But I think the reason why it's so clear and obvious with Keir and Angela is, one, because they're so diametrically opposed, but because it's so easy for Angela Raynor to think that she could get Keir Starmer's job, because really a houseplant could get his job. There's no distinguishable feature of Keir Starmer. He has as much personality as literally like like unseasoned food.
What?
It's
Why do
incredible.
they unseasoned food? Why? See, here's the thing. So when Boris was, and I'm not saying he isn't stood on the ropes. I completely understand. But when those weeks before Christmas of problem after problem after self-made ridiculous problem, you idiots, right? Suddenly the Labour Party was, they were 10 points behind, and then they're 8 points in front. But every day I was looking at it going, this isn't because you've said anything, Starmer. This isn't because you've said absolutely nothing, and you're in the lead. Obviously, over Christmas, no restrictions. Boris Johnson to a degree, but there will be people who will never vote for him again. But politics is a weird game. Still, Keir Starmer says nothing in Birmingham yesterday, and I'm surprised that they don't look for a more dynamic leader. I'm being honest.
And I know this sounds insane. I think they're comfortable because I think they've paid attention to the polls and they've seen, they can go in the lead and then stay back with the Conservatives and then go in the lead again. I think there's no real panic in the Labour Party about how dire their situation is. The reality stands, regardless of what the polls say. Labour is not an electable party.
No, it's not. And
It's not
I'll
an
tell you what they should do. They should see this as an opportunity rather than because they're level and they're doing okay. The truth of the matter is, right now's the time that they're supposed to challenge. The one thing people should not forget about, and I've been very open about the mistakes that Boris Johnson has made, but I'm telling you now, when his back is against a wall and when it comes to campaigning, they will not get within a mile of him. That's a fact. And I'm surprised that they didn't push home this advantage before Christmas, if I'm honest.
Yes, and this is the thing. I mean, I said something positive about Tony Blair a few weeks ago on Twitter, and I was almost crucified for it. But I said, regardless of what you think about Tony Blair and his record, nobody can deny that he was a remarkable politician, and that is what the Labour Party needs. They lack talent.
I thought in '97. Well, you've brought it to a subject I wanted to talk to you about off left field anyway, but. I thought in '97, there's a politician that people will follow. There's a politician who has an agenda. There's a politician who inspires, if you like, people to follow him. He did, though, turn out to be a war criminal. Where do you stand on the knighthood? Seriously, Esther, what do you feel about that?
The thing is, my issue is not necessarily with the knighthood, which I still think is atrocious, right? I think it was an atrocious decision. But I think my issue is with the honour system on the whole. I would rather the average man who, like, for instance, that young man that risked his life and jumped into the Thames to save that woman.
Yeah.
The ambulance worker that's been working through COVID and, maybe has not necessarily seen his families elsewhere throughout the pandemic. I would rather the average man that's actually done something remarkable be honoured than someone with such a tainted political history, or even people like Lewis Hamilton, one who doesn't live in the UK or pay British taxes, or people like Van Tam, right? Or all these people that, we are prematurely awarding them for really, we don't even know the quality of the work.
I have long held that belief about Lewis Hamilton. Do you know what I want to say? And you've given me the absolute opportunity, yeah? If you care, like Gary Lineker, so much about all the people who have nothing, give them your goddamn money and live in this country by paying taxes. Don't live in Monaco and start pontificating to me about the rights and wrongs of this country. Does my head in, Esther. I've waited 4 months to say that.
I don't even mind the fact that he doesn't live in the UK, right? My bigger issue is you're honouring a man who in his entire career has said nothing positive about the UK. I cannot remember a single positive thing this man has said about the UK. And I think that was where the decline of the honour system, or the integrity of the honour system, started to decline. I would say that I generally don't believe that the Queen independently thought of her own volition that, let me honour Tony Blair.
Well, it won't have come from the Tory government, will it? It won't have come from the Tory government.
Exactly. I wouldn't. No, I'm sorry. I refuse to believe it.
Do you think that the Tory government will be part of that decision?
Absolutely. I don't think it was an independent decision made by the Queen. I don't think she was,
maybe the Tories made her do it so that everybody would rise up and have a go at Tony Blair. Maybe you're right. Oh my God, maybe you are absolutely spot on, Esther. We've got these clips. We're going to play one of them. The Boris and Angela Raynor thing today was a bit like school playground. Just watch one of these clips for me if you can. No, it's not going to work, is it? It's just brilliant.
We have this Prime Minister and his incompetent leadership. And every time we are faced with a challenge, he denies there's a problem. He tries to laugh it off. He looks for someone else to blame. So can I suggest to the Prime Minister, it's not about brushing your hair, it's about brushing up on your act.
I mean, gives it to him, but it's just a bit playground, isn't it, mate?
It's like child's play. And in Boris's defense, again, it's not something I thought I'd be saying on this side of 2022. A lot of the negative press that's come out about the government and about the Tories is not entirely his fault, right? I think we forget that this man has just had a child, his second child, and he basically has 2 infants at home. He's trying to juggle the country. He had to fire Hancock in the most embarrassing scandal I think we'll see in the last 5 years in politics.
And he's deluded because he thinks he's getting back.
I know. Imagine having to cater such a delusion. So I do think that one, it was childish, and some of the criticisms are a bit misplaced. What I do appreciate that I saw, and again was disappointed by with the response, was Steve Baker finally asking him, when are we going to finally come out of this nightmare? When are we going to have life go back to normal? When are we going to reassure businesses and investors? And I think the reason why that question was so important was because I think the country just wanted to see a sign of a plan. Boris, have you even thought about this? Have you thought about putting together a final exit strategy for what the UK would look like?
Shall I tell you what I think Shall I tell you what I think over Christmas was his biggest success?
What?
By in the end, by default, doing the complete. He was made to look brilliant by that woman in Scotland and Mark Drakeford in Wales. He was made to look absolutely on point by Nicola Sturgeon and Mark Dreyford. And I think that's really, really relevant. Now, we've done the serious stuff. You pick this subject. You tell me about the Royal Mail postman caught on the doorbell camera urinating all over the family's front door. Esther Krakue.
I thought that was hilarious. I saw that and I just thought, I know it's highly inappropriate, but I thought, gosh, what could they have possibly have done to make you do something so grotesque in public?
Well, so I'm wondering to myself, did they have a dog that continued? Look at him. There he is, just having a wee and caught on camera. Now, what's he thought? I'm caught short. There's a bush. Nobody can see it. I mean,
I suspected he didn't think there'd be a video camera there.
Right, look at that picture, though. What does that tell you? I'll tell you exactly why he's had a wee there. What does that tell you? That's a posh area. Look at the size of the garden and look at the size of the house over there. That's weeing. That's weeing over the upper classes, that is. That's a miserable postman who's had a crap Christmas and is on not a lot of money, getting really upset by the fact that they've got a big house, so I'm going to have a wee in their garden.
Yeah, or maybe their dog has been attacking him. We never know, but I think you're probably spot on with your guess there.
So what are your predictions for 2022? Will Boris ride it out and start leading in the polls? Will Keir Starmer be off another 307 times with COVID? Will Angela Raynor take over the Labour Party? Will Prince Andrew end up going to America and facing the court? What's going to happen, Esther? So much.
I know. Well, I am hoping. I don't want to comment on the situation with Prince Andrew and the royal family, but I do hope he this was my hope from the beginning. I thought a guilty man would have cooperated with the FBI a long time ago. So the longer this goes on, regardless of what conclusion comes from it, the more tainted the royal family is.
Absolutely.
I think Boris is going to start taking some opposition in his party very seriously. And I don't mean opposition against his leadership. I mean opposition in terms of real superstars that are rising in his party. And I think Keir Starmer I'll be surprised if he lasts past June. I don't know. I'm just suspecting that there are a few people that have more credibility that will probably.
I can see Keir Starmer. It's interesting because up to Christmas we were talking about who's going to replace Johnson and Rishi's going to get. I actually do think he'll bounce back. I think he might well be tainted from this long term, but I think he'll lead them into the next election. If I was a Labour person though, I would be thinking, how do we get somebody? They've sleptwalked through the last three elections with leaders who were never going to be elected. And I just feel him, and I'm not being disrespectful to the man, I've never met him. I spoke to Wes Streeting the other day on this show, and he's an inspirational young politician. He believed in what he said and he was impressive. But Keir Starmer, to me, doesn't inspire people. And that's, I think, the big thing, really.
Three real talented potential leader figures in the Labour Party right now. The fact that I can't even think of more than two is just...
But who can you think of in the Tory party apart from Boris Johnson? Liz Truss pretending to be Maggie Thatcher, or Rishi, who, by no disrespect to Rishi Sunak, if it's all wrong, is tainted by association with Boris Johnson. Who else is there?
To be honest, I think Liz Truss is probably the only person. That's probably why she was made Brexit secretary, because I think Boris knew, and this may be a bit conspiracy theory, Boris knew that that's an impossible job, and it's very difficult to come out of that job looking very good and looking like you've stuck your ground, because the EU consistently play hardball with the UK, which is what was expected after the Brexit vote. So I think that was very strategic on Boris's part, but we'll have to see. But I do think, this is the thing, they don't have to be particularly good, they just have to be better than Boris. And that's what he doesn't realize. And that's the same thing with Keir Starmer. They don't have to be particularly good, they just have to be better than you. Right? If Angela Raynor looks better than you, that's really
how
bad.
frightening's that? I mean, Angela Raynor, no disrespect to Angela Raynor looks like a capable leader of the Labour Party. I bet you couldn't have believed any of us have been saying that 2 years ago. Can I just say, I know you're a very busy woman with a very posh agent, but trying to get hold of you to come on the show is difficult. You are amazing. Please come on whenever. It's always fantastic to have you on.